All right, so say I wanted to be Catholic.
Okay.
What do I got to do?
All right, so if you...
Yep.
All right, I'm going to use you as an example. Okay?
Great.
All right, so let's say Nate wants to become a Catholic.
Okay.
All right, so Nate, you've already been baptized.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, so if you've already been baptized... the reason I bring that up is because there's a difference between individuals who've been baptized and individuals who've not been baptized.
Okay.
So if you've never been baptized in a church, then it's going to look different for you joining the Catholic Church than individuals that have been baptized.
Why is that so important?
Because baptism in the Catholic Church, like that's the first sacrament that is necessary to enter into the Catholic Church.
Okay.
And many Catholics will say it's necessary for salvation.
Okay.
Okay. Now, as an individual that is baptized, you will go through a process where you do have to, you'll go through a time of what they'll call like a time of preparation. Okay.
For what?
For eventually being confirmed in the church and then taking Eucharist. So it's kind of all communion, which is all that it really is leading up to that moment.
Okay.
Okay. And so you're going to go through a series of like where you're going to learn some history and some theology, some doctrine of the Catholic Church. And so
it's indoctrination.
Depending well, yeah, but every church I won't say every church. A lot of churches have
good catch.
A lot of churches have a lot of churches have these like what they call membership classes or those kind of things before people join the church. So
I've done like 20 of those.
Oh, yeah, because you just keep going from church to church.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So anyways, so for the Catholic Church, so Nate, you've been baptized.
Yep.
You actually know a pretty good amount about scripture and doctrine. And so the time
and now church history.
And so now the time of preparation will not probably be as long.
Okay.
Okay. It's like a set time. But you'll go through the time of preparation and then you will eventually you'll be confirmed. And when you get through the preparation, you'll once again be asked questions, be confirmed, and then take Eucharist. Okay.
Okay.
But
what if I've taken what? Why is our Eucharist different?
Okay. Yeah.
I think that's a later question, but
yeah.
Why is it so important that I take Eucharist even though I've taken communion before?
Because they would say that the communion you've taken before didn't actually have Christ's physical presence there in the Eucharist.
Oh, okay.
Because remember, one of the distinctions between Catholic churches and a lot of Protestant churches is for Catholics, the bread actually becomes the body. The wine actually becomes the blood.
So cannibalism.
And you are taking, and Christ's presence is tangibly.
Was that a you agreeing with me, or was that
it's
you're mad at me for saying that?
That people could assume. People could think that.
Okay.
Okay. I'm not saying you're right or wrong. I'm just.
Okay.
It's easy to make that leap there. So, but anyway, so. And the point being is this references back to John 6.
So when we take communion, it's nonsense.
To Catholics,
it's nothing.
To Catholics, the communion we're taking is invalid.
Is it because we use Welch's grape juice instead of actual wine?
No, because there are Protestant churches that are using wine.
Okay.
Yeah. And so
do they use real wine? Catholics?
Catholics, yes.
All the time?
Yes.
You have to?
I don't know if it's like a have to, but I mean, if you go to a Catholic church, it's gonna be wine.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't. That's a good question. If somebody knows, throw it on our comments.
Okay.
So, and because for the Catholic Church, the Eucharist again, you have the tangible presence of Christ that's there.
Okay.
And the reason that's not happening in, let's say, any other Protestant church or any church outside the Catholic Church is because it's the priests that are consecrating the elements to be this.
And the Pope consecrated the priests, or the bishops consecrated the whoever.
Yeah, it all works down, right?
Okay.
And so you got the cardinals and the bishops and the priests, and, right? But yeah, but the tangible presence of Christ is there. It's present in the serving of the Eucharist in the Catholic Church.
Okay.
And so for them, that's why it's a time of prep. You have to prepare yourself both in knowledge, but also in your heart to be able to come to the point of taking Eucharist for the first time.
Okay.
And that kind of, if you want to put it this way, kind of like seals that deal of you becoming a Catholic.
Okay.
Yeah. So you'll move through this preparation, you'll take communion. That's a big deal.
So when babies get baptized,
Mm-hmm.
they're not actually Catholics until they drink their first
Yeah, and
cannibal juice?
Well, yeah, they're baptized, they'll be considered like they're baptized Catholic, but they're going to receive the sacraments later on.
Okay.
Yeah, and so they're part of the Catholic Church. They're part of the people of God.
Okay.
And so, but there will be another time in the future where they will go through confirmation themselves, and then they will be baptized, take the Eucharist. And so, and then for a non-believer, but a non-baptized person, then that individual, their preparation may last like a year.
Oh.
Yeah, because depending on how much they know or don't know.
That's too long.
Yeah, so that's how long. Like, so for example, I've had a family member go through that, and it took them about a year to go through that process.
So they would consider my getting dunked baptism fair enough.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Even though they do it different.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's one of the things that's interesting is because they do recognize that the baptism in other churches.
Okay.
Yeah.
But not the Eucharist.
But not the Eucharist.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, for example, that's also because we're not part of the true church. As Protestants, we're not part of the true church.
Right.
If you were to go into a Catholic church,
according to them,
you're there. Right. According to them. If you're there, part of a mass, and they would not serve you communion.
Oh.
Yeah. Because you're not part of
what if I brought my
church. I don't think they're going to. I don't know, man. Are you like busting out the? Yeah. This is how you're going about it. You're like busting out
cooler.
Like you're busting out the bread.
Just got my own loaf.
And the.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I'm also picturing you standing up like anybody else, anybody.
Yeah.
So like but no.
Bring out cheese and.
Well, now you're just doing something.
Little salon. I got a whole charcuterie up there.
Okay, that's not communion at anywhere. That's you got hungry. Oh
yeah. What if I did that? Would that count?
No.
Okay. What if I got the priest to bless something and then pulled it out of the way really quick and put my charcuterie board underneath it? So that he blessed my charcuterie board.
No, Nate.
No,
it doesn't work that way at all. And I'm laughing about it, dude. They would be like rebuking the tar out of you right now because you're making light of something like the Eucharist,
the holiest of
yes.
whatever.
Yes.
Okay.
Because like even for the Catholic Church, like the Mass is the central part.
Am I going to get murdered?
I mean, maybe.
Oh.
No, I don't think you'll get murdered.
Okay.
So they'll just call you a heresy.
Okay.
A heretic, excuse me. They'll call you a heretic.
We've been really making a lot of people mad the last month and a half.
Yeah, we really have. And so I'm just glad it's you this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And so, but yeah, like for Mass, the whole, like it's all centralized around taking communion. So those who've been baptized outside the church become Catholics by making a profession of the Catholic faith and then being formally received into the church. Okay? And this is normally followed immediately by confirmation and the Eucharist.
Can you get rejected?
Can you get rejected? If you're not agreeing with their statements, yes.
Oh, okay.
Like, let's say again, using you, if you're up there arguing with them over all these things and you're not accepting them, then yeah, if you're not going to accept the teaching, then yeah, they're not going to allow you into church.
So is getting into the church, like where would they say, yeah, that's far enough, you can go to heaven now? Do I have to do the whole thing?
Okay, so we're talking about salvation stuff now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is where probably the divide may happen most between Protestants and Catholics.
Okay.
Because for Protestants, again, it's, you're saved by grace through faith.
And that's it.
That's it.
I don't have to do anything else that you tell me ever again.
Well, no.
That's it.
No, it just means, it means that we get saved, but then I don't believe in a once saved, always saved. So in other words, yes, I'm saved, but now I've got to continue to follow Jesus. Okay?
Even if I was in a coma.
Well, come on, man. You know what I'm talking about. And so you're going to follow Jesus.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is you can't be like, okay, I said a prayer, right? I said the sinner's prayer and I'm good.
Okay.
And then I go live however I want to live for the next 30, 40, 50 years. Okay. Right. So for the Catholics, they would say, okay, yes, you're saved by grace through faith, but the sacraments are a means of salvation, of constant salvation. Right. Okay. Because salvation is not going to be limited to a one-time moment. It's that idea of we are saved and we're being saved and we will be saved. And I agree with that. Like I as a Protestant agree with that. I believe that I am saved. I believe that I'm being saved. And by that, I mean, I'm being transformed more and more into the likeness of Christ.
Right.
And that, yes, there are things like the sacraments, like as a Protestant, again, I would call that communion. I would, baptism. Those are worthy things to partake in.
Okay.
There are what I would call means of grace, confession, study, prayer, all of those things that I would believe are healthy for an individual that's following Christ, right?
Okay.
And so in that place, I'm being transformed in the likeness of Christ. And then eventually, yes, I will be ultimately saved by finding myself face to face with him after I die.
Okay.
For a Catholic, yes, you're saved by grace through faith, but now there's these meritorious works that need to happen as well.
For me to keep it up.
Correct.
Okay.
And they would say that you're working out your salvation that way.
Okay.
Through these sacraments.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So it's like every Sunday I gain 10 points. And then throughout the week, every day I don't take communion, I lose a point.
No, there's not.
And then I got to go back to...
No, because you can't take communion yourself, right? You can only take communion at Mass.
Exactly. So I have to go back next week. Otherwise, I go backwards.
I'm not saying it's a going backwards.
Or I go negative, and I'm like, oh, crap.
But I'm saying, yeah. But they would say that the sacraments, again, the sacramental part of the theology for Catholics is really a big deal. It's really important.
So it's kind of like eating.
What do you mean?
Like if I stopped eating,
okay,
I'd be fine for a while, and then I'd die.
Right.
So if I keep eating, then I don't die.
Right.
So it's like that. It's like feeding your soul.
Sure. Yeah. Feeding your soul, but on sacraments.
But I have to do it, otherwise I die and go to hell.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Or there could, and this, yes, I'll leave it there. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll hit purgatory later on.
All right. Oh, right. I'm saved the whole time as long as
you're engaging in those sacraments.
I'm saved from the point I accepted Jesus into my heart, as long as I do go through the whole confirmation process and then keep taking the sacraments.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yes. And then,
So then the question is, what if I was put out and couldn't? Will the priest come to my house if I'm like bedridden and help me take sacraments?
Yeah, and that would be part of like the sacrament of like anointing the sick.
Okay.
Right. And hopefully, they would be bringing, if you're part of the Catholic Church, that, the priest would, they bless the communion and everything.
Okay.
And they could serve it to you as well. Like
Can I doggy bag it home for someone sick at my house?
No.
Can I get a to-go box for the blessed sacrament?
No. Okay. No. Like the priest himself would have to administer it.
Oh, okay.
Yes. No. There's no, Nate. There's no doggy bag.
All right.
Yeah. No takeout.
No takeout. Can I DoorDash it?
No.
All right,
You
fine.
cannot. The priest has to administer it.
Okay.
Yeah.